Okay, welcome to part 3, and glad you're still here. Like I said, this is really important, and hopefully by the end of this, you're going to fully understand showing and telling, and when to do one and not the other. So I wanted to show this little part here. This is from a book by Warner, The English Grammar and Composition. This is an example it gives of when a person has done some telling and not all showing. And so you can see it here in red. And I'm gonna show you ways to figure out when in your writing, because it's one thing to know how, it's another thing to be able to catch when you have accidentally told and not shown. That is, how to revise your writing and find these little errors. So let's go ahead and read this really quick, and then we'll see the part here in red that is telling. And this part here, that shouldn't even be there. In the book mentions that it shouldn't be there, because the reason why is because the author has inserted himself in. He's told you something that the character can't know. The character can't know that she's about to get smacked with a goat. The only reason why a line like that would be there is if the character is telling the story from the present tense about the past. Usually stories aren't written like that, but if it was written like that, then they can say something like this, because they're like, basically it's like a person like sitting next to you telling you the story about something happened in the past, and those stories aren't that popular. They're usually not written. Stories aren't written like that usually. Anyway, so Nancy, right arm outstretched, hesitantly approached the tethered goat, which eyed her suspiciously, but held his head up as if fondly showing her his dirty yellow beard. "Nice goat," she said softly as she held out the bright red apple. Now, you could also try to show here that she's kind of hesitant, or not, you already know she's hesitant, but that she's kind of worried or scared, and that's why she was like, "Nice little goatie." So you could actually just change the words, "nice little goatie" or something, or you can share some of her thoughts here, interject, do some introspection. She worried that the goat might hurt her or something, but that would be telling. But sometimes thoughts are good. So anyway, here's where it totally tells. And I'll show how to recognize it, and I've underlined the words to hint. Breaking loose, the goat, which apparently wasn't securely tied, gave her a glancing blow with his horns, and she found herself sprawled on the grass, more frightened than hurt. Now, if you were just to read this passage, you might not even catch, like let's say you're reading this novel, and this was a passage in a novel, you might not even catch it, that you might not even realize that, hey, the author just did too much telling and not enough showing. And because it paints a vivid enough picture, you can see everything, right? I can see the goat breaking loose, ramming her, even though it never says it did that. It just says it gave her a glancing blow. But I can imagine that it rammed her and she flew back and fell on the grass, and that she's like all frightened because her face, maybe her face expression is showing fright or something. And that's another thing I could have done in my example below this. But anyway, the point being that how to recognize when you're showing is to look for weak verbs like gave. Gave her a glancing blow. Why not just it rammed her? It glanced her, but that doesn't make sense. So you have to change it to rammed, which is a better verb anyway. And why is it that she found herself, weak verb, she found herself sprawled in the grass? Why not, she flung back on the grass? So, she found herself on the grass, it totally took out the part where she flung back on the grass. And I'm just thinking, you could actually leave out the part where she flew onto the grass and imply it by first saying, the goat rammed her, and then say, she sat up from the grass or something. But you don't want to say like she found herself sprawled on the grass. But anyway, that's getting a slightly different topic, but you could do something like that. Mix the two together, showing and telling, which kind of creates this small little mystery where the person has to figure out what just happened between those two things. But let's read here really quick and see. This is also obviously showing frightened, more frightened than hurt. You want to show that she's more frightened than hurt, rather than just flat out tell the reader, look she's more frightened than hurt. I expect you to take my word for it. I'm the writer. I'm telling you she's more frightened than hurt, so just believe it. But you have no reason to believe it, other than the fact that he tells you she's more frightened than hurt. In other words, he hasn't given you a reason to believe. So this is another thing you want to ask yourself. Have you given the reader a reason to believe your words. So if you say something like, he's buff, have you given the reader a reason to believe you that he's buff? Maybe you can say, he bench pressed 300 pounds. That is show it though, a real quick scene where whatever the scene is, make him do something to show his strength, and then it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely strong. I believe it now when the author tells me he's strong. Okay, so the goat, apparently not securely tied, charged her with its head down, extending its battering horns. It smashed into her hips. She flung back onto the grass butt first. Her heartbeat pounded in her temples, her hands shook, and her knees wobbled as she dusted herself off. No bruises or cuts, she was fine. So this last part here shows us that she's more frightened than hurt. Another way we could have done that too is you could say that she's still on the ground and say something like her eyes were wide open, and in this case, or her eyes, you don't want to say her eyes shot wide open because, well, actually you could do that. She flung back onto the grass butt first. Then you could say her eyes shot open, her mouth hung open, or her eyes shot open, her mouth hung, and she stared in disbelief, dusting herself off with a shaky hand. No bruises or cuts, she was fine. So that's another way to kind of show that she's frightened. So however you do it, just pick out little details, show that she's frightened, and then in contrast, I show that she wasn't hurt, that she was fine. So there you go. That's an example of where you can try to find it in your own writing by looking for weak verbs. Often weak verbs will tell you where it's at, and also look for facts that you just flat out state, like feelings. Feelings is often where you're going to show a lot. You're going to say like she was scared, or she was frightened, or he was strong, he was confident, she was good looking, things like that. If you just say she's good looking, do you just expect the reader to take your word for it, or show them that she's good looking by how other people react to her, like have some guys whistle at her or something, so to strengthen. It's not that you can't say, oh, she's good looking, I wish I looked like her. That's fine, but to strengthen that by showing how good looking she is by giving a quick little action within a scene. Okay, so I wanted to show another example from this website, and I recommend reading this page. It's really good. So I'm going to go to the top of the page where you can see what it is. It's Dennis G. Gertz, and here's the link here at the top. And you should be able to see that because I've been doing higher resolution videos now, so you should be able to read that. But maybe I should post it into this particular part, this video, in the description. And also I'll have other links in the description too if you want to help support me. Oh man, Master Edit is so awesome. I'm so glad I finally got this. So hopefully it'll be available when I have this video up. Maybe I'll hold off putting this series up until Master Edit's available, because Master Edit is such an awesome piece of software for editing. It'll just save you so much time. Man, it's awesome. Anyway, I can't say enough about it. And it's a one-time fee, unlike AutoCrit, and it does more than AutoCrit anyway. More useful tools and everything. And it does a lot of what AutoCrit does. Okay, so this passage here and this one here, can you tell that this passage is telling and not showing? And it looks like I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to have to do another part, but that's fine, because I'm also going to give in the next part, part 4, I'm also going to give you a short video or something as an assignment for you to I want you to describe what's happening, to paint in words, what the video is showing, whatever, and try to show what that video is showing, but with words, and try to do it with all showing and not telling. So I'll have you guys do a little assignment. It'll be like a short little paragraph, so you'll be able to post it in the video itself as a comment, and I can overlook if you want me to, and I can point out things, and other people can point out things too in case I miss something where you might have fallen short of showing and not telling. So anyway, if you want to do that, then feel free on the next part to do that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll read this first and show the differences to sum up this showing and telling, and then that little assignment will follow, and I'd like to see what you guys write, and it'd be cool. So hopefully you guys will participate in that.